Hi, my name is Kelly Chan, and for this assignment, I created a Jeopardy that is inner ear edition that focuses on the cochlea as well as the eighth cranial nerve, the vestibulocochlear nerve. So there will be six categories today for this Jeopardy. The first will cover bones of the cochlea or bones related to the inner ear. The next will be about structures of the cochlea. Third will be about membranes of the cochlea. The fourth category is anything that has to relate to the vestibulocochlear nerve. And the last two categories are related to cells of the cochlea as well as the supporting cells of hair cells within the cochlea. For this presentation, I will be going through these categories in order from 2000 all the way to 1000. And I'll be reading the question and giving the answer as well as elaborating as needed. Starting off with bones of the cochlea for 200, we have the part of the skull that houses the cochlea, and that is the petrous temporal bone, more specifically the optic capsule. Next, we have a name for the bone that encases the inner ear. The answer to this would be, what is the bony labyrinth? For 600, we have an opening in the bony labyrinth where scala vestibuli and scala tympani exchange fluids. The answer to this is, what is the Helkatrema? Next, the length of the cochlea. The answer is, what is 55 millimeters from the base to the apex if you unfurl the cochlea? And lastly, for 1000, we have a bony core that has a spiral-shaped projection. And the answer to this is, what is the modilus? The modilus is located in the center of the cochlea. Its lateral spiral-shaped projection is called the osseospiral lamina, which spans the entire length of the cochlea. Next, we're on to the second category about structures of the cochlea. And so the first question for 200 is the chambers that have perilymph. And the answer to this would be, what are the scala vestibuli and scala tympani? Perilymph is rich in sodium ions. Not mentioned here is the scala media, which has endolymph, which is rich in potassium ions. For 400, we have location of cordylymph, which would be, the answer is, what is the organ of Cordy? For 600, we have the fibrous lining attaching the lateral wall of the scala media to the optic capsule. And this would be, what is the spiral ligament? Next, we have provides blood supply and maintains endocochlear potential within the cochlea. And the answer to this would be, what is the stria vascularis, which is located on the lateral wall of the scala media? For cochlea structures that are for 1000, we have the Reissner's membrane attaches on the inside edge of this bony ridge. The answer would be, what is the spiral limbus? Moving on to the third category, we're now talking about the membranes of the cochlea. And for 200, we have a membrane that separates the scala vestibuli from the scala media. And the answer to this would be, what is the Reissner's membrane, which is a thin layer made of squamous epithelial cells. For 400, we have a membrane that drives frequency distribution via complex vibration patterns based on sound frequency. The answer to this would be, what is the basilar membrane? For 600, we have a collagen and protein flap above the organ of Cordy that touches the tallest outer hair cell stereocilia. The answer to this would be, what is the tectorial membrane? For 800, we have a tight covering over the organ of Cordy that prevents the mixing of perilymph and endolymph. And the answer to this would be, what is the reticular lamina? Lastly, for 1000, we have a membrane that is involved with when the stapes bulges out and pushes in on the oval window. This membrane makes fluid move through the cochlea. And the answer to this would be, what is the round window? On to our fourth category, all about nerves. So for 200, we have the opening where the eighth cranial nerve exits the cochlea, and that would be what is the habenula perforata. For 400, we have this structure contains somas of the eighth cranial nerve, and the answer to this would be, what is the spiral ganglion? For 600, we have the types of afferent neurons in the cochlear system. And so for this, the answer would be, what are type 1 or inner radial fibers? These are myelinated neurons that make up 95% of the auditory nerve. And what are type 2 outer spiral fibers? And they make up the other 5% of the neurons in the auditory nerve, and these are non-myelinated. For 800, we have this contains the efferent neurons of the medial and lateral olivocochlear neurons. The answer to this is, what is the olivocochlear bundle? The olivocochlear bundle originates from the brainstem, and the medial olivocochlear neurons inhibit outer hair cells to prevent damage due to noise trauma. For 1000, we have the tonotopic organization of the eighth cranial nerve. The answer is, the highest frequencies are processed by fibers on the outside of the cochlea, while the lowest frequencies are processed by fibers at the core or at the medullus of the cochlea. Next, we have cells of the cochlea. So starting at 200, we have sensory cells that transduce mechanical motion into neural signals. And the answer to this is, what are hair cells? For 400, we have the number of inner hair cells and outer hair cells at birth, respectively. And the answer to this would be, what is 3,500 and 12,000? For 600, this question asks, has 40 to 60 stereocilia and 100 to 150 stereocilia, respectively. The answer to this are, what are the inner hair cells and the outer hair cells? For 800, we have, what is the pattern of inner and outer hair cells? The answer to this would be, from a superior view looking down on the organ of Corti, the inner hair cells stereocilia create a U shape, while the outer hair cells create a W shape. And looking from medial to the lateral direction, there is one row of inner hair cells followed by 3 rows of outer hair cells. And for 1000, this question is asking for the 3 types of crosslinks. And so the 3 types of crosslinks are side to side, which join stereocilia next to each other in the same row to row, which connects adjacent rows of stereocilia, and lastly, tip to side, namely the most important type of crosslink, which connects the tip of the shorter stereocilia to the taller stereocilia. And this particular crosslink is important when fluid is pushing across the stereocilia, such that when it pulls away from the medullus, the ion channels open, allowing potassium to flood in, and when the stereocilia are pushed towards the medullus, the ion channels close. For the final category, we have the friends of hair cells, or the supporting cells. And this question asks, supports outer hair cells. And so the answer to this would be, what are Henson's and Dieter's cells? For 400, these supporting cells are located medial to the inner hair cells. And the answer to this is, what are inner spiral sulcus cells? For 600, we have supports the inner hair cells. And the answer to this would be, what are inner phalangeal or otherwise known as inner supporting cells? For 800, we have these supporting cells are next to Henson cells. And the answer to this is, what are Claudius cells? And the last question for this Jeopardy is, this supporting cell has phalangeal processes that make up the reticular lamina. And the answer is, what are Dieter's cells? Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. I hope that you enjoyed this Jeopardy. Thank you.